Ever get confused about saturated versus unsaturated fat and which is the right one to use in your diet? I know I do. Check this out.
Eating's a social event too, certainly with us and your friends, so it's tough to be so restrictive when you're eating. So I get that point. I'm just trying to figure out best long term, and I'm at one of those points where you're really assessing I'm really assessing everything right now. So let's get just to saturated fat, asking a cardiologist, chicken thigh or salmon fillet, which has more saturated fat?
Which do you think?
The question I would ask is, does the chicken thigh have skin on it? All those things. But,
right.
But I'm going to say the
three times.
The chicken thigh does.
Chicken thigh, 3 times more than the salmon. And that's, by the way, without the skin. So if you add the skin, a whole lot more. Wow. So you want to stay away from chicken thigh in deference to a chicken breast. It's a much leaner meat. Now, it doesn't mean that a chicken thigh, you're going to have it, you're going to have a heart attack. But at the same token, when you can make that simple choice, thigh or breast, go with the breast. It's leaner. Stay with that leaner. You make each one of these little things that you do are towards the Mediterranean lifestyle, which is just got to be in your subconscious. First of all, it's got to be in your conscious. You've got to learn about it, and then it goes into your subconscious. Then before you know it, your cholesterol's down and you're feeling better.
It's interesting because you do read a lot and you see a lot about people that just have that fat isn't so bad for you anymore. But you really got to be careful, I think, when it comes to the type of fat.
Right.
It's a little bit shocking to me that the chicken thigh is 3 times more than salmon, even without the skin.
Yeah.
So.
And that's where you have that old bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken, and if you're doing a bunch of thighs there with on top of it, deep frying it in, and you're wondering why people were having heart attacks in their 50s while they were smoking. We've figured out that stuff, but we need to put it into our subconscious. It first has to go into the conscious, so we have to understand. Hey, if I have the 2 choices, let me go with the leaner meat. Let me go with the breast. Okay, great. That's one step towards understanding how to live and how to get our body to be used to sort of the better ingredients that are out there. And that's the goal of everything that we're doing, not only on this podcast, but as a cardiologist's life. We want to sort of transmit these little bits of information so that the choice becomes natural when you're just sitting and reaching for a piece of chicken. They're both delicious, right? So let me go for the leaner meat.
Well, no, I'm just looking at the next question here is a bison patty or a beef patty. I've never actually had bison, but which one would you think is
more saturated fat is the beef patty. Again, I think the crux of that is stay with the leaner meat, right? Obviously, so a bison is known as a leaner animal, and the more of the lean meat you have, the less saturated fat you're going to expose yourself to.
This next one's interesting: beef sirloin or 2% milk.
Huh. So 2% milk is always got more saturated fat than even meat. The idea of having the lower percentages of fat in your milk, at least from a saturated fat perspective, is better. Now, milk can be important. You got vitamin A, vitamin D, obviously calcium, but you want to watch the saturated fat certainly in whole milk and even in 2% milk.
Cheese, pizza, or potato chips? Now
yes, sir.
My diet.
Yeah. Well, so we're talking about saturated fat here. So cheese, saturated fat, they go sort of together. The other thing is when do you just have one sort of slice of pizza? You usually have lots of it, and there's lots of cheese on that. So in that case, the same amount of 4 or 5 gram slice of pizza versus similar, handful of potato chips, you're going to get more saturated fat from the pizza. But the type of chips will make a difference here, and obviously type of oil that are in the chips make a difference. But pizza itself, with all that cheese, has a lot of saturated fat.
Okay, you brought this up earlier with the Krispy Kreme. A glazed donut or an avocado?
Well, listen, the donut, of course, is going to have more saturated fat. It also got a lot of sugar, and you get that spike of sugar that makes you hungrier and is bad for your health in so many reasons. So that intense amount of sugar at one time, the body doesn't know how to deal with it. It's just frankly toxic. The avocado does have a good amount of both fat, saturated and otherwise, but it also has vitamins and minerals, and it comes in a sort of an absorption that takes a while. So it's a great tool. It's a great method of fat. It has a little bit of saturated fat, so you want to just not overdo your guacamole either. Not to mention it can be calorie rich. So great fruit, avocado, but does have some saturated fat.
Now, when they refer to avocado having good fat, they're not referring to the saturated fat in an avocado, or is that another type of fat?
There are more than one types of fat in an avocado. The amount of fat in a particular avocado, first of all, there are almost 4 grams of fat in a whole avocado. I don't know how frequently people are eating a whole avocado, but that's, goes along with the amount that you want to get in a typical diet, which is, 5, 6, 7% of saturated fat. So it comes with a lot of other health benefits.
So you got the macadamia nuts or a pork tenderloin.
Macadamia nuts are rough in terms of their fat content in general and the saturated fat that goes with it. So you got to be careful with the type of nuts. I'm a big fan of almonds, a little bit, better for you in the sense that it's less fat content, certainly less saturated fat is something that you're watching. You want to avoid the macadamia nut in particular.
Bacon or coleslaw?
Bacon or coleslaw. So if your coleslaw is made with the heavy mayonnaise, which is traditional, the creamy mayonnaise, it's usually more fat in it than bacon, if you can imagine. Mayonnaise is rough. It is basically saturated fat. And so you may not know that. You think you're having a salad with your bacon. It's not really the case. You're having saturated fat with some minor amount of fiber in the cabbage, I guess.
Cafe latte or French fries?
Cafe latte or French fries? First of all, for me, that's what I call breakfast. No, it's I love coffee, as you know, and we'll start talking about a bit of coffee next. But a small order of French fries has saturated fat in it for sure. The cafe latte with the deep milk in it, and they usually come big. It can be as high as a 16-ounce size. Has a lot more saturated fat in it. So I know that when I order coffee, I try and, have my coffee black. Adding sugar, you're spiking yourself a little bit, so meaning you're sending out the insulin and you're going to be hungrier and want more, and that whole paradigm of sugar. So I like my coffee as black as I can get it. If I'm going to have a cream in it, I'm going to try and go with a low-fat solution, and a really good option can be almond milk. That's what I usually do at the Starbucks. If I get an almond milk, and if you don't have a nut allergy, if you like the taste, but skim milk, almond milk are great substitutes for the usual cafe latte with that deep and a lot of milk in it.